Hi everyone, in this short video I want to give you a quick introduction into the multi-section batter command in advanced road design. This command allows you to create intelligent batters. These batters are created based on depth checks to determine what happens. So you could use this command to apply benching in heavy cut and fill situations. You can add retaining walls, add drains, even change the batter slopes at certain depths. In this example, I'm going to create a Gabion wall. So if you select the bottom part of the Create Edit Section command, you will find Create Edit Multi-Section Batter. The first thing we're going to do is create the multi-section batter template, and then later on I'm going to create the road and apply it. So when you run the multi-section batter command, this is the dialog box that displays. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail on this command at the start. I'm just going to show you some of the basics to get you started, and then maybe later on I'll create a more advanced tutorial on this. But the multi-section batter command isn't really that hard to use. I'm going to create a new template, so I select this button with the green plus, and I'm going to call mine Gabion Wall and select OK. So quickly talk about the interface. Firstly, when you set up the multi-section batter, you need to tell the software what is going to happen in a fill situation and also what happens in a cut situation. As you're building up the template, you will see a preview of the batter, and on the right hand side here you can set up the cut depth and the fill depth, so you can see what is forming at those depths. So to get started, I'm going to firstly add a depth check, and I can do that by running the command check start section. What I want to do is tell the software that between a depth range of 0 and 4 meters, I want to add one section in that has a height of 1 meter and it's basically vertical, and then I want to add a second leg as well, so it'll come out at a width of 1 meter and will be flat. If any of those legs or sections hit the surface, then I can tell the software what happens. Does that section trim to the surface or not? And then after I've added this condition, I can tell the software what happens next. Do we loop? Do we end? Do we go to a label, perhaps to add another section in? So what I'm going to do is tell the software between 0 and 4, I'm going to add a section in at a height of 1 meter, and it'll have a width of 0.01, so it's basically vertical. Now at this point, the software, the batter will probably reach the surface, so I can tell the software what happens if this particular section does hit the surface, but I don't want it to trim, so I'm going to tick that off. I'm going to add another leg in, so if I select on add second bench leg, I'm going to add another section in that'll have a width of 1 and a height of 0.01. There is no way that this second bench is going to meet the surface, so I'm just going to say ignore the surface, but I wouldn't expect that second section to reach the surface. So if I click OK, you can see that between 0 and 4 meters, I've got a 1 meter high section, and then I'm going across at 1 meter, and it's just extending past the surface. So if I did want that first section to trim to the surface, I could tick on trim section at surface intercept, and you can see that it's trimming to the surface there. But in this example, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is when I'm at a depth of, say, just under 1 meter, I want to add a drain in and then batter back up to the surface. The order at which you add these entries in is important. So if I wanted to do a depth check between 0 and 1 meter, I should do that before we reach this depth check here. So what I'm going to do is add another depth check between 0 and we'll say 0.99, and this will form my drain. So I'm going to come across, let's go 1.2, the height, I'll go minus 0.4, I'll add another leg in, we'll come across 0.4 and it will be flat. Don't expect this section to trim to the or meet the surface, and I don't expect this section to either. In regards to what happens next, I do actually want to add another section in to batter back up to the surface at a 1 in 3 slope. For the time being, I'm just going to set this leg to end completely. So if I click OK, now you can see that the depth between from 0 to 0.9 isn't being applied yet, and that's because of the order of operation here. The depth check is between 0 and 4, and therefore it doesn't even get to this second depth check. But using these arrows, I can reorder the operations and set the checking from 0 to 0.99 to happen first. So you can see that if I'm at a depth between 0 and 0.99, the software is starting to form this drain here. And if I'm outside that depth, then it just goes to the next line, which will start forming my Gabion wall. So what I want the software to do is add a batter going back up to the surface at a 1 in 3 slope. To do this, at my first entry, rather than ending completely, I'm going to tell the software if these conditions are met, go to a label, and this label will be positioned in this list here and will be used to form my batter. So what I'm going to do is add a label in, and I'm going to call this batter and select apply and exit. And then underneath that entry, I'm going to do another depth check. And at this stage, it doesn't really matter what depth I put in here. Between 0 and 1,000 is fine, because this entry is only going to be used when this first section tells the software to go to this position. I'm going to put a width and slope in. Width doesn't really matter, I'll just go for 10, and we'll apply the batter at a 1 in 3 slope. No need to put a second bench in, and we'll tell the software that when we meet the surface, just trim the section there, and we can, if those conditions are met, we just end. So if I click OK to that, the software hasn't applied that batter yet, and that's because I need to go to my first section and tell the software that if the drain has been added, after doing that, go to the label batter, and then the batter is formed. So if I preview my wall, you can see that the wall has been added, and then when we are within 0 and 0.99, a drain has been formed. In a fill situation, it will be pretty easy. I'm just going to do the one depth check and say that between 0 and 4 meters, I'm going to go up at 1 meter, and then we turn trim off, and then the second leg come across 1 meter and be flat. In fact, I probably should set that to trim. So if that section is going to meet the surface, then it trims to it. This will just loop until it hits the surface. So if you click OK to that, set the preview in a fill situation. Now, if greater than 4 is not going to show anything, but within 4 meters, you can see that that wall forming. So that's pretty much it. It's a very basic intro into multi-section batters. So I've set up what happens in a cut situation and what happens in a fill situation. What I'm going to do now is apply it to my road. So if I select apply and exit out of this form, I'm going to quickly create a road here. And the next thing I'm going to do is go into the design. In the design data form, I apply my multi-section batter. I do that by selecting on the batters and adding a new entry. What I want to do is add a multi-section batter, so I click OK. I just set the chainage range that I want this multi-section batter to be added. I'm going to say the whole length of the road. The batter I want to use is the Gabion Wall, and I want to apply this to both sides. If I hit Add Update, the wall would be added. And let's just open up a cross section. And let's just add an IP in. So if I start lowering the road, you can see in the cross section the Gabion Wall being added. And as I change the levels of my road, it's just dynamically updating. And you can see the drain as well. If I'm more than 4 meters, then it should just go back to a 1 in 3, because that's outside that that range we set up. The line work will also show in the drawing, so I can see the line work forming for the batter and the drain as well. If you've created a multi-section batter and you want to share it with someone else, if you go back into the multi-section batter template editor, you do have the option to export it out to a file and then import it for someone else to use. So thank you for checking out this short video on multi-section batters.